Out here. Well, good evening, everybody. I guess it's dinner. Hope you had your dinner first. Things have been going well here. We've had a lot of thunderstorms, a lot of water. Did a test flight in the Caravan yesterday. Flew up the Missouri River. Lots of flooding into the lower farmlands down there. Mississippi's broken a couple of levees. So we're getting a lot of water here in the Midwest. And if you guys are flying in the Midwest, you know that. So, well, let's see. Has anybody taken a check ride? Here we go from Canyon Overlook. The most difficult airport, Aspen. Aspen for sure. Absolutely. Have not been to the Air Force Museum. I'm going to knock some of these all out right here since you guys have been sitting here. Why do airplanes drop? Now that's an interesting question because they always say you hit a pocket of air or turbulence. No, you didn't hit a pocket. What happens though is the relative wind momentarily changes in direction or speed, and that changes the lift on the wing, and all of a sudden you get a little more lift on one side or the other, or both of them, or a little less, and that's why that you get that jerking movement of the airplane in turbulence. Loud and clear. That is what I want to hear. I appreciate that, Dave. This has been a struggle for me. I'm committed to getting this down, but it just never seems to really start off smoothly the way I'd like to do it. So I'm just taking care of one problem at a time. Let's see. Sounds good. Everybody's saying it sounds good. Wonderful, wonderful. That because if you guys were there when I first had the sound problem, it was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. Let's see. Oh, Noah flies the CJ3 Plus. That is a nice airplane. I've got maybe 20 minutes in a CJ3 Plus. That's it. You know, we were looking at buying one and we never did. We got the Challenger 300 instead. Let's see. Oh, Jack and Jean. Jack, good to see you guys. Let's see. Hold on here. Oh, thanks, Robert. I appreciate that. Boise. Gosh, I've been there maybe once. I do have a Boise story to tell. And that was... No, that wasn't Boise. Never mind. I have been to Boise, but not very often. I'm thinking of another place out there up in the upper west where we had a door with a G2 fail. That's a big hydraulic door. It's driven by hydraulic. And we had to actually get people outside the airplane to close the door and then lock it. And then have people on the other side when we got to where we're going and coming down and open it up. Let's see. Check who else we got here. Thanks, Gary. I appreciate that. Hey, I was in Atlanta. So he's asking if somebody was in Atlanta. I was in there, 2 weeks ago? I think that's when I made that video. Unfortunately, if you saw the last video, there's no ATC in it. The reason there is no ATC is I was having a problem with my GoPros, so I switched back to this little Sony digital recorder, and I had a splitter line into the headset. And for some reason, the recorder was on, recording, but it was not taking the audio input, and it was just using the external speakers. So all it was getting then was just the loud airflow up front, which is just junk. I couldn't use that. So I just had to make the best of what I had. So I figured out the problem on that, and I'm going to attempt another video and try to capture the ATC. One way or the other, I'm going to get that. I used to fly Part 135. I flew 135 for years, and I'm now flying Part 91. Everything we're doing in the Excel is Part 91. Excuse me. Let's see. PDK tomorrow, Banshee. Okay, I like PDK. There's a little restaurant at PDK. If you guys have never been there, I can't think of the name of it, but it's kind of where the east-west runway meets with the north-south runway, and it's a great place to sit there and have lunch, kill some time, and watch all the action at the airport landings and everything. And that restaurant's open to the public. Anybody can go to it. If you live in Atlanta, anywhere close to PDK, I'd check it out. I'd definitely go do that. In fact, I'd do it in the evening. Sit out there in the evening when the sun's starting to go down and have something out there like that. Let's see. Your son, Jack Visser. Jack Visser, is that how you say it? Just bought himself a new Cessna Caravan. Arctic prepped. Man, is he going to let you fly it, Jack? Because the Caravan is a fun airplane to fly. I've got nothing but good things to say about the Caravan. I mean, I could find some critical things, but it was not designed for, like, oh, you can't get above the weather. Well, it wasn't designed for that, so you can't fault it for that. But I love flying it. It's a fun airplane. I don't know about the Delta Propel program, John, so I couldn't tell you anything about that. Oh, Monty from Wichita, good to see you. 105 watching. Okay, okay. Let me just knock a couple of things out I want to talk to you guys about. Last time I was here, we talked about that Citation Encore that flew out into the Atlantic and crashed and sadly killed the pilot. They've called off the search, which I didn't expect for them to find. That's so deep out there. I didn't expect them to find anything. And they finally named the pilot Juan Carlos Gonzalez Mija, I think that's how you pronounce it. That's very sad. Prayers to his family on that kind of stuff. He's a fellow aviator, and I just hate to see things like that happen. Very sad, but it does happen. If you're in this industry long enough, you'll know somebody that does happen to. But I was going to say, did you guys see the picture in the news of the V-wing airliner? With the KLM colors on it, they were thinking about making 20% more fuel efficient, and the fuselage is blended into the wings, and the passengers will be in this blended fuselage. Very interesting concept with the V, and it's like it's cut out. It's like a delta wing that has a cutout in the back where the two engines are. Really kind of a radical concept. I would be surprised to actually see that fly, but I'm not an engineer. They may very well do it, and it'll be the best thing since sliced bread out there. So let's see what else we got here. Let's see. Oh, I wanted to thank, who is it, Doug Wall, for the cookies. Doug, thank you for the cookies. That was very nice of you. I really appreciate it. So here we got here. Michael Jackson, Sacramento. I haven't been to Sacramento in a long time. I went in there for 135 Company. Last time I went to Sacramento, we had a blown out strut on our right gear. And if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, there's a oleo that compresses at landing for shock absorption, and as you roll onto the runway. And there's a seal in there, and occasionally those seals will fail, and when they fail, the nitrogen that you have in there will escape, and it'll come down, and you lose that shock absorption, and the plane will tilt a little bit, and you got to put it up on jacks and rebuild the strut is what you basically do. Any chance I can be a pilot if I'm kind? I think you probably meant blind in my right eye. Xavier, it's more difficult, but it's not impossible. I personally have known several people that were professional pilots. One of them was working, what was he flying? 747s, I think, and had one eye. He had lost an eye to cancer. And the other one was my first instructor when I was a student getting my private pilot license. He had had his eye destroyed by a parasite. He had been in Vietnam, and he was flying also. He flew professionally. Not only did he instruct, he had a corporate job flying a jet. The thing about that is, if you had already been flying for years, and it is much easier to do because you lose depth perception in that situation. But there are other visual cues that you can get that help you with that with one eye. And so if you had already been doing it for years, you would already have cued into those visual cues. And what they would have you do is go out with somebody from the FAA and go out and do 2 or 3 landings in an airplane and demonstrate competence with just one eye is what you would do. But if you haven't started learning how to fly, that makes it a little more difficult. I haven't done it myself, so I can't say how difficult it is. I've just heard other people say that it is more difficult if you start out not having already flown. So I hope that helped with that question. Let's see. Hey, Sergeant Eddie. Hey, I've answered some of your comments. You left some comments. Good to see you here. Thanks. I appreciate it. What airplanes have I piloted in my life? A lot. I've got 9 different type ratings, and that just covers a score of different things. In Cessnas, Falcons, Gulfstreams. And, of course, I've flown stuff where you don't have to have a type rating. I flew freight in the Cessna 210. In fact, one of the stories I was going to tell, because I like to have some stuff already that I can talk about in case nobody shows up here, and then I could just keep on talking. But when I was flying freight one night, and it was IFR, we had no autopilot, and it was single pilot, and there was a pop, pop, and every light on the instrument panel was gone. There was just nothing I could do. No switch, nothing, circuit breaker, anything. It wouldn't come back. And I had a flashlight, 2D cell flashlight, which you're required to have 135 for that kind of situation. So I'm flying with one hand, and I'm holding the flashlight with the other. So you can imagine that's a little more challenging, because now, without an autopilot or another pilot, what do I do when I have to change the radio frequency or tune in the VOR? Because I was flying VORs. There wasn't a GPS in the airplane. And I just happened to try, for some reason, on the light panel, the courtesy lights. And the courtesy lights were 2 lights that were out on the wing on the bottom side for when people were getting in the airplane at night. And all it did was just kind of give you a little light right there just outside the door. And those actually came on. I guess they were on another bus or circuit or something like that. And those 2 courtesy lights in the fog I was in, all that area around it was glowing and reflecting back into the cabin. And I actually had enough light from those courtesy lights to fly the airplane and see the instruments and be able to fly it and do this. And then every now and then, if I needed to, I would turn the flashlight back on and do that. And so off I went. Actually, I was flying back to St. Louis. Flying freight back to St. Louis is what I was doing. And got back. So, I just like to tell stories like that, because as you progress in your career, you never know what kind of situation you may be in. Where something that somebody had told a story about, a situation they had been in some way helps you with your situation. And you'll probably find yourself in your career telling stories to other pilots also, and they'll learn from your experiences. Any closer to retiring from full-time corporate flying? Gosh, one day I will. I think more and more about that. At what point? And I just don't know. Of course, if I lose my medical, well, that's it. And actually, I could instruct as long as you don't have to be PIC. I might do that. A lot of it depends, I guess, on what happens with this job. I would like, at a minimum, to fly professionally till I'm 67. Or maybe 70. At 70, though, I just think, as a matter of principle, I would say at that point, I'm just going to do part-time work, helping people out, filling in. That's kind of what I think. But like I said, that's the future. There's no telling what the future holds. The demand for pilots might increase and increase and increase, and then they'll just be begging you to stay. But the economy might go down and everything contract, and there's like, please leave. So you don't know. You just have to roll with it and see what happens. Instrument ride in a Cirrus. Cirrus 20. That's an SR20 is a Cirrus, isn't it? I think it is. I've been a passenger in one. I've never flown it, Hobson. No, it's had a guy pick me up and take me out to Columbia to do some work out there. Seminole's a good airplane. Most difficult airport to fly into me, or the most challenging, I think, is Aspen. it's a challenging airport just because of the situation. You got to stay alert. You got to stay alert. One thing about Aspen, it's in the mountains, so it's a very high elevation, and it kind of goes into where the mountains are coming in like this. I don't know if you can see on the camera, and it's one way in, one way out. So a lot of times as you're coming over Red Table, that's the VOR on top of the mountain, that's where you start your descent. And now it's kept you high, so you have a fairly steep descent. Well, people are coming back out, taking off in the opposite direction. You see the runway, you're coming in, and what they'll do is they'll go ahead and launch a guy on the runway straight towards you, and his instructions are to, right after takeoff, make a right turn to a certain heading. Of course, they can't take you too far to the right because of the mountains, but they give you a heading. So you see this guy's coming at you, and he turns while you're coming in this way towards him, trying to lose altitude and speed at the same time and get on that runway. They've had a number of accidents there. I don't know if you guys have seen the video on YouTube. I think it was a Challenger. Was it 2 years ago? It was a Mexican crew landing a Challenger there. And they had a tailwind, a substantial tailwind. And they were landing on the correct runway, but I mean, obviously they should have just gone somewhere else. But the tailwind was pushing them, and it looked like they were in the flare and tried to force it onto the runway, and it started porpoising, and then bam, just nosed down into the runway and caught fire, and it killed them. And then they had a Gulfstream accident before that, where a crew left out of, I think it was Hollywood, California, and they ended up getting there. See, most people will not go in there after dark. I wouldn't go in there after dark, just no way. But they got there after dark and tried to circle into the runway and hit one of the granite walls. Killed everybody also. So places like that, you've got to stay very alert. Those mountainous airports like that, with difficult approaches and departures, high altitude, weather changes very quickly in places like that. You may have, and I noticed this in Eagle also, you may have only just a few minutes notice. You can see straight up, you see the blue sky and all that, and then all of a sudden low clouds roll in right off the mountain right next to the airport, and it's snowing within 2 or 3 minutes, while you're on approach or something like that. So you got to be careful in the mountains. Oh, Owen's doing well. He and Christian have a CJ3 Plus they're flying now. I see them all the time out there. And Mike's doing well. He and I fly tomorrow. Actually, he and I fly probably for the next 8 days is what it's looking like. We're going to be very busy. I've really kind of put myself on a... I'm fooling myself. I'll tell you honestly. I'm trying to be consistent with videos, but I'm running into a problem with work that just blows your consistency there. So I'm trying to get one up at least every week is what I'm trying to do. So I've been thinking of how am I going to make this work in the next week and a half. So it's going to be a challenge, but I think I can do it. I'm going to work on that. Let's see if I can't get another video up in the middle of that trip. Maybe a video of Dallas. That would be good. Yes, been to Cleveland, Ohio. Hey, Hector, how you doing? Hector, I apologize. You showed up last time and said something to me right as I was signing off there. And I apologize for disappearing right after you showed up there. Because you've been with me for a long time, leaving comments and saying hello. I appreciate it. Thank you. Would you be willing to speak to a small safety student organization? Blue Reaper 88? Sure. I mean, it really kind of depends on where it is or what you want to talk about. I don't know if I'm really the person qualified really to talk about safety. Well, actually, in fact, I'm still alive after flying for so many years. Maybe I am. But, there are people who specialize in safety programs and stuff like that. That's why I say that. But, I've always thought if somebody asked me to speak, I would be happy to do that. If somebody had a subject or something like that. That would be a new challenge. That would be fun. Let's see. Thumbs up are free coming people. Oh, let's see. Oh, 148 watching. Oh, yeah, okay, that's what it is. Yeah, okay, 141 concurrent viewers. Cool. I hadn't even noticed that. I'm trying not to look over on this side because this is where it's showing me, and so I have a tendency to look at a person and look over there, but it's also delayed, and it looks like, oh, the sound has gone out because the lips aren't matching here. But as long as you guys are seeing it, that's what's important. You know, I'm seeing over here now a stream of people saying hello, comments, and stuff like that. Let's see what else we got here. Does your company allow low-time pilots to sit right seat on some trips and time build? The problem is there's nothing you could really build time in. For the jet right now, you would have to have substantial time for that. It's, you know, a Citation Excel is not really an airplane that you would consider a time builder. You know, you'd have to have a substantial amount of experience to replace Mike. Mike would be, you know, he'd say, oh, no, that's my seat. Yeah. The Caravan, that's just a one-pilot airplane. I'm not sure because, see, you wouldn't be a required pilot sitting in the right seat. I mean, you would get experience, but what you really need is PIC time. And it wouldn't give you the PIC time. So that wouldn't help you. Yeah, PIC is king. That's what you need. Number one, PIC. On top of that, you need PIC multi, and on top of that, you need PIC turbine. PIC multi and turbine is what will really get you rolling right there, and that's a step because I had the same problem. It's like you get in the singles, okay, you're building time in that, and you're flying the singles. Then it's a challenge. How do I get into the multi-engine airplane? You know, who do I know? Where can I go? Who might be hiring? That kind of thing. So that's the next step when you finally get into a twin and you can start building some time. But then once you get into the twin, you don't want to stay there because now you want to get multi-turbine time. You know, now the jets are different. They handle different from the prop jets. I mean the prop twins handle very differently from the jets. You'll notice one huge difference you'll notice right away from a turbine prop and a jet is that when you're in the flare in a prop airplane driven by turbines and you pull the throttle back, those variable pitch props will actually go flat. And it's like all of a sudden as if there's a huge dinner plate in front of the engine. You get so much drag, the airplane, it immediately slows. You feel it. You tend to come forward. So you got to be kind of careful when you come back in the flare because you just don't want to prang it on. But in a jet, once you get in a flare and you pull that throttle back, and actually you've probably pulled it back as you're coming into the flare, it's very low drag. It does not slow down. So you really want to be on your ref speed as you're coming across the threshold and flaring into it. Because if you aren't, if you're just carrying 10 knots of extra speed and you pull the throttle back to idle, you won't feel any slowing. You'll just kind of sit there and wait and wait and wait. And if the runway's too short and you were too fast, well, now you see the end of it coming up on you, and you're going to have to go around. When I got typed in the G2, myself and the guy that we were going to fly it, we were going to be the crew. We were both new to it, and had another guy, a mentor pilot, that was going to fly with us. So we both had 50 hours. That's what the insurance company required from us. And I went out and got my 3 touch and goes, and it was different. It was a heavy airplane, and his first landing, it was a 6,500 foot runway. He was really trying to work it to get a nice smooth landing on his first one. We had to go around before he ever touched that runway because the airplane was just not slowing down as he was holding it off and trying to just make a really nice landing. So it's different. It's different. Let's see what else we got here. Is the Excel Citation a safe plane? It is, Marcus. I think the Excel is a great airplane. I really like it. It's a lot of fun to fly. It's a good airplane, stand-up cabin, good speed. It's a great airplane. Love it. How do you get your, Christopher, how do I get my private pilot's license quick and cheap? Well, the cheapest way to get it is know somebody that owns an airplane that is also a buddy of yours, and he's a flight instructor. Cheapest way. Go into a 141 school. You can get it. You're probably going to have fewer hours in the airplane. So people say, yeah, doing 141, it's going to be cheaper because you spend fewer hours actually stopping and starting all that. I don't know how much of a difference there really is with that. What you're going to have to do is just talk to people, shop around. Probably the biggest thing that you can do, though, yourself is when you start out, already have the money saved up so that once you start, you don't have to stop, lose a few weeks, and then come back. You just want to go all the way through it because if you don't reinforce what you've learned, you've got to go back through the lesson. Your instructor will take you back through this lesson, get it down again, and so now you've added another hour. You fly a couple of lessons, and now you got to redo another one, that type thing, because you had to go work for 2 weeks or something like that. It's best just to knock it out one after another, those lessons. That's the cheapest way to do it. Have I ever flown an Embraer? I used to be a first officer on an Embraer 120. That was the Brasilia. So yes, I've flown an Embraer. I haven't flown an Embraer jet though. I have not. So I can't speak on that. Favorite plane to fly? Daniel, that's the M2. Okay, this is a good question. Excellent Aviation says, can you give some tips on networking in aviation? Okay, and I've always said this before. If you want to be a pilot, go out and meet pilots at the airport. Most pilots really enjoy talking aviation. They love it. They like to talk about it. They go out on the weekend. So what you want to do is you want to meet, first of all, just basically make friends with people out at the airport. Now, you didn't ask if you have no experience or if you're already an experienced pilot. So if you haven't started flying, you want to meet flight instructors, meet private pilots, people like that, because they can help you. They can guide you. They can tell you where to go, what you need to do, all this stuff. And then, a lot of times people will ask you, hey, you want to go with me on this trip? We're going to go do this trip to so-and-so, whatever. And I've found that a lot of times when you do things like that, people that own their own airplane will say, hey, you want to fly it? They're proud of their airplane. They want you to like it also. If you already have your ratings and you're in a new area, that's tough because the kind of people you want to be networking with then are the people that can make connections for you, that can tell you about job openings or can introduce you to somebody that is the head of a flight department, something like that. Because I've had a couple of times in my career where I had lost a job or gotten laid off and was trying to find something else, and was thinking, and it was when the economy was really bad. So I actually went out to the airport and talked to people first of all. Talked to them, said, hey, here's my resume, stuff like that. Went back and checked with them. But there was one company. They were busy. They were gone all the time, and this was when most people were doing JEPs. And I said, look, I'm between jobs right now. I'm going to get something out here and or one of these airports and something like that. You guys are gone all the time and your JEPs are behind. I tell you what, for $10 an hour, I'll come in and take care of all your JEPs and all that kind of stuff. So, and I started doing that. So now I'm in their office all the time. It also gave me an excuse to be out at the airport and to meet people and do things. And that kind of worked into something else. And eventually I ended up getting a job. I got contract work with that company because they eventually lost a guy and they needed somebody to fill in on a part-time basis The two guys that were full time, they weren't leaving. I never expected them to leave, but I wanted to make some money, make contacts, and then I used that to start doing other contract work. I actually worked for 6 years just doing contract work, and that was just picking up trips and being paid on a day basis. I did that in Gulfstreams, Falcons, and Citations, and I'll tell you what, I made really good money doing that. A couple of times, a couple of months, I made more than I had ever made, But it's very up and down, that kind of work. If you're going to do it permanently, you've really got to network and hustle. Get out there and make sure people know that you're available, and because you're self-employed, basically doing that. The farthest flight I've ever taken was 6.5 hours on a Gulfstream, and that was coming back from London. And I can't remember. I'm thinking we cleared customs in Bangor, Maine. I'm thinking that's where we stopped. It was a long flight. And what was nice, though, it was a larger airplane, being the Gulfstream. And we had dinner on the airplane. The flight attendant actually made dinner and would go sit in back, take a turn and go back there and have something to eat and then come back. But that was the longest one. Deaf Mills, I have a CFI. I've got a current CFI. I renewed mine. I'm thinking I renewed it last summer is what I did. But I don't actively instruct. I don't even think if I wasn't working full time, I might instruct again. But it's been a long, long time since I was flying single engine pistons. Long time. Let's see what else we hear. Xavier Schenkel, this is an interesting question. How do pilots handle ears popping? My ears don't pop. I don't think mics pop. Most people I know that are professional pilots don't even notice it anymore. And you can flex your jaw if you do start feeling a little pressure, and it opens that eustachian tubes. And it's called a something maneuver. I don't know what the name of it is, but you learn how to do that. And unless you have a cold and you're totally stopped up, I can open it. Now, we're flying pressurized airplanes. So normally the highest rate of pressure change that we'll have in our cabin is maybe 500 foot per minute at the most, unless you have a problem with your pressurization system. Unpressurized aircraft, well, you'll get, a greater change than that, depending upon your rate of climb or descent. But after a while, like I said, you get pretty good at clearing that and don't even notice it. I cannot even remember the last time. I think the last time I had a problem was when I had a cold and was really stopped up and it was building up. And I just squeezed my nose and put a little pressure in there until it opened up. But like I said, it's not as bad in the pressurized airplanes. Oh, that's it? Okay, yeah. The Valsavic maneuver. Yeah. Well, I don't even know how you would teach anybody that. But it's nice. Many years ago, I took a trip with a fellow in an unpressurized airplane, and his girlfriend was sleeping in back. We were coming back from someplace overnight, and she really had a problem. He told me later that she had blood in her ear, and I can't believe she did not say anything about it. That she should have said something. Yeah, Canyon Overlook. Look, I'm sorry to hear that, because it can be really painful. Really painful. I mean, you can burst an eardrum also, so you have to be careful with it. Okay, let's see. What else we got here? I like the Gulfstream also. It is a beautiful airplane. Oh, what will my advice be for starting as an airplane parts broker? Uh, I couldn't give you any advice. I have no experience in that at all. All I can say is good luck. Giovanni, try to find somebody that's in that business that you can pick their brain, get some information from them. I don't know. I don't even know anybody in that business, but it's a good business. I mean, those parts are really expensive. Yeah. Oh, let's see. Let me read this real fast. Uh, okay, yeah. We'll just skip that. Okay, yeah. Some people chew gum and it helps them out. Uh, how did you handle company pressure to fly when you didn't feel comfortable too early in your career, weather-wise? That's an excellent question, because what I have found uh, is if you're in that position, usually, normally what I've done first is gone to the lead passenger because it was a charter company and explained to them the situation with the weather, because your passenger's comfort level with weather is probably way below yours. And most of the time, before you even say, no way we're going, they'll say, yeah, that's just, they'll cancel it themselves and say, well, we need to reschedule. That's not something we want to get involved with. But when it comes right down to it, if it scares you, just don't do it. You just have to say no. Weather's too bad. We can wait. Often I've said, we've got weather, we got a line coming through. We're going to have to wait till that line passes, or we're going to have to, if we're further out, we're going to take off when we see that maybe it's going to be through there in 30 minutes or 45 minutes when we're 2 hours away, because we'll be out of the area. And it's expensive for them also, because if you head to that airport where the weather is bad and you can't land at that airport, you've got two options. You can either hold and keep burning fuel, putting time on the hobs, which somebody's going to pay for, or you go and land at another airport and just sit at some airport and wait for which would be your alternate, wait for the weather to pass. And that costs money also, because now, you're going to have the additional expense and time and fuel of diverting, landing, taking back off. But you're also burning into your duty time. So you may not be in a position where you can actually take back off and head back to your airport that you're heading to, because you don't have enough time. You're going to end up having to get a hotel room, come back 10 hours later after you've gotten rest. Hey, C. Johnson, how you doing? You live 10 minutes from Raleigh-Durham? Well, thanks. I appreciate that. Angus Barn. Yeah, I've been to Raleigh-Durham. I've been there a number of times. That's actually a beautiful area. That's very kind of you. Thank you very much. Let me see what we're doing here. Oh, yeah, okay. Because I need to finish at 7:30. Okay, 157. We're slowly getting it up there for concurrent viewers. The last time I used paper VFR chart and filed a VFR flight plan the old school way. Okay, that's Jeffrey Duran. The last time, okay, let's do flight planning first, because that's really what changed first. This was almost like a revolution in the industry, because first, originally it was, well, you walk into a flight service station and a guy there gives you a briefing and pulls out all these maps. And that was kind of, it's like, oh my gosh. It was dated, the information you're getting, about thunderstorms may be old. The thunderstorm may not be there anymore, may have dissipated, may have intensified, something like that. Then, if you tried to do your flight planning, pulling out all these maps and stuff, a long trip, you're going VOR to VOR, and then you've got to calculate with the E6B what your ground speed's going to be, using these winds and all this and different stuff. And it just goes on and on. You can spend hours doing this. And, you get to the point where now you're guesstimating. Yeah, I think this, and this will work. Yeah. So, just to conserve time, because you're starting to eat up all this time. So when they came up with DUATs, which was computer-based, and you get your weather off the computer, that was great. Now you can get your briefing actually on the computer, pull up the charts, station reports, all this stuff, and it was a great time saver. You could also file through there. And then they came up with flightplan.com, which was so much better also. It was like another jump in evolution to the whole flight planning process. You could just get everything you need on that site. It's free. It's fast. You file with them. I've been doing that for years. Like I said, I can't even remember the last time I pulled out a paper chart and worked through a flight plan for a trip. You do that as a private pilot now so that you know how to do it. You know the mechanics and the basics. But once you get out there flying professionally, it's all automated now. You still do it yourself, but with the added benefit of all of this stuff at your fingertips and the charts and all that. It's wonderful. Now we've gone to the point, though, where the charts are on your iPad. I mean, you can put charts for the whole country and other countries on your iPad and just bring them up instantly and update them easily. Just hit update on your iPad and it brings them all in. It used to be you used to get this heavy box of charts, and you'd throw out all the other charts and replace everything, and it was expensive. It was like, I think the NOS were like $900 and something bucks for a subscription to that. And it takes up a lot of room. It's like, where do you put it in a tight cockpit? You're hiding charts all over the place. And then JEP charts. A lot of people prefer JEP charts. That's what the airlines use. And what you had with those was about every 2 weeks, you would get this update. And it would just take you forever. You'd have books and books and books of charts. And you'd be, of all the airports in the country, and you'd be looking up one airport, pulling out a single page, pulling this, and sit there for hours doing this. People would pay other people to do it, like I did at that place I was talking about earlier. And that is all gone now. I mean, that is a huge improvement. It's an improvement in money-wise because it's so much cheaper to buy charts off. I've got 4Flight, and I'm trying to think. I can't remember what the subscription costs, but compared to actually buying the charts in paper, it's not even comparable. It's so much cheaper, easier to use, and this is what's so cool also, because you used to have these paper charts, and it was not interactive. Now you pull up your approach plate going into an airport, saying you're going into Eagle, and you're doing the localizer to runway 25, and it'll actually show your airplane coming up on the chart and following the feeder route, and then the inbound course on the localizer. So you've actually got this moving map display on the approach plate as you're flying the airplane in. And you can pull up on your iPad information on the FBO, charts, weather, see these storms and stuff like that. It's just, I think everybody who is learning how to fly should somehow be transported back in time to 1960 and have to fly for a week as a professional pilot to see what the difference is, because it's unbelievable how different it is now. And I wasn't even flying in 1960. I was a kid, but it's changed so much. Technology has really changed so much. And it's like in our airplane, we got a phone right above your head. You can pull a phone down. Now, we have not done the service for the phone because it's expensive, because we really don't need it. But a lot of people do have that service, and they just pull the phone down, dial the number, and hey, talk to whoever they need to talk to. We've got the internet, so you can send a email or a text while you're flying along through our internet service. That's why we don't have the telephone service turned on. Let's see. Who else we got here? Let's see. In the mountains. Oh, when is my next vacation? Oh, well, I'll tell you guys what we're going to do. You guys who are in the bicycling world our son and daughter, they ride bikes, and they're doing this ride in Iowa, and it's called the Great Register Bicycle Ride Through Iowa or something like that. It's like 10,000 people ride through Iowa for 7 days, and we're going to be their support vehicle. I've got a pickup truck, and we got this little trailer, and we're going to follow them all through Iowa doing this, and this caravan of other trucks and trailers and vans and stuff like that. So it's a first-time thing for us. This will be fun. We're looking forward to it. Be a big challenge. Oh yeah. Well, Keisha Pilot, 20 years ago, USB was a misspelled word. Yeah, that changed so much. It changed so much. Well, YouTube has changed aviation when you think about it, because there would be, 20 years ago, there would be no guy like me out there sharing this world with you, because this was a part of the world that other people knew nothing about. They had no experience with this, and they had no access to it, no way to experience it, unless you actually had somebody or a friend in your family that did this type of thing. And they could tell you about it, but there's no way that they could vicariously bring you along on the trip like I do through these videos and share in that way. So that's another technology leap forward that has totally changed the industry in many ways. You see all sorts of people on YouTube doing stuff. Oh, Ragbri, that's it. Okay, that's what it's called. I never can get the name right, Ragbri. I would like to be riding in it. I think that would be a blast. But alas, that is not for me. I'm driving the truck, pulling the trailer. That's my lot in Ragbri. And yeah, Ragbri, that's how it's yeah. Can you tell us a story where you had to deal with unpleasant passengers or owners? I have had 98% of people be really nice to me. I did work for one guy, and he was a work of art. I ended up leaving there. But one thing funny about this guy was he owned this CJ, and he was a big guy. He was big. And he had, when he bought the airplane, they had pushed the bulkhead back behind his seat back as far as could possibly go. He needed the room to get in. And he wasn't very flexible. And I kid you not, this is a true story. More than once, I would get out first just to give him room. And I am not talking about, this was years, this was 20 years ago. I'm not talking about anybody I've known recently like this. This fella passed away a long time ago. But then that would give him room to start trying to get out. And it would take him a while. And more than once, he fell. And I remember this guy falling. He's in the aisle. He's got his legs. And he said, Jim, get me out. And I've got this guy's arm. I'm in the back of the plane. And I'm putting all my weight into trying to pull him out of the cockpit. And he's stuck. He's got his legs. And he's like, pull. And till I could finally get this guy out of here. But he and I had a few unpleasant moments together outside of the airplane where we just really got into it. So that's just one of those things, in every profession, there's somebody you're eventually going to meet that it can be very unpleasant. But like I said, 98% of the people I've flown are respectful. They treat you well. You treat them well. And it's great. It's great. Okay. This is kind of an example, though. The few problems I've had have not tended to be people who owned the airplane or were chartering the flight. I remember one charter I did with a guy. The owner of the company, we had flown him a number of times on charter. He was absolutely fantastic, great to us, but he was one of these guys that he was going to make the trains run. If he told you he wanted to leave at 8 to go to someplace, he would show up without fail at 7:45, and we would be in the air at 8. Okay, but very nice, very pleasant guy. And so one day, and he would also be taking his employees, because a lot of business people, if they've got an airplane going and there are 8 seats, they don't want to waste the seats. It's more economical to take 8 people than it is just him and a couple of other people. He'd fill it up. So he'd sit up front, which is not the nice seat, the bench seat, right in front of the little refreshment center, and ask people what they want. He'd fix them coffee, pass it back, and snacks or Coke or something like that, kind of like being the host. So one day, we were taking some of his people. These were middle managers somewhere on the airplane, and you could tell they were not accustomed to this stuff, and they were getting loud and rambunctious, having a lot of fun, but nobody doing anything, that we thought you would really have to say something to them about. And they had some catering, and we got to where we were going, got them off the airplane, and it was just a huge mess out back there. There was stuff ground into the carpet, blueberries ground into, it was really a mess. We had to hire somebody to come in and detail this airplane. It cost us hundreds of dollars to have this airplane cleaned up. And he found out about it, and because we had to bill him for it. Boy, he was not happy. Those people never flew again, with our charter service, any of those people that were on that airplane that time. Because he was one of those guys where he treated people well, and treated them with respect, and he expected his employees to do the same thing. So if you're ever in a situation like that, take your cue from the guy that's paying the bill. You can't always act, like an idiot and get away with it. So, ADS-B. That's an interesting question. We had ADS-B done in the airplane. And I like it. Well, what we really, when we did that, we did the ADS-B, and that's the enhanced surveillance for the aircraft. Now it's satellite based. So even if they can't pick you up on the radar, they can pick you up through the satellite, your position, as you're flying along. The ATC can. But the upgrade that we did for it was the Garmin solution, the Garmin 750. And what I love about that is that gave us, in our airplane, it gave us the moving map display with the NEXRAD radar, as well as all the weather. We could pull up all the METARs, forecast, all that stuff in the cockpit now. And it has the charts in it and everything. But the moving map display with the NEXRAD, the radar on it, is a game changer. That's really nice. We use that in conjunction with the radar. The radar is great for instantaneous up-close displays, as you're actually coming up on stuff. And that NEXRAD can show way down the line what's happening, give you more of a strategic indication of what's happening, so that you can start planning on whether you need to start diverting down to the south on a different route to get around a line if you can't get over it. A lot of stuff we can get over. Not all of it, but a lot of it we can. Which is nice. That's the thing that's nice about flying an airplane. They can go to 45,000. Most weather, most thunderstorms don't reach 45,000 feet. Now, some do. Believe me, some do, and you don't want to be anywhere near them. Let's see what we got here. Oh, okay. SE Ocean Crosser is updating his iPad JEP charts as we speak. Yep, he knows what I'm talking about. Yeah, and it's just a game changer. All of this stuff, once it's all combined, makes your life as a professional pilot and as a private pilot so much easier. There's nothing worse than being in the weather, being down low, and you're got closed in by the clouds all around you and you can't see anything, especially at night, because when there's a lightning flash at night and you're in the clouds, everything lights up. And if you don't have a good radar, or the next rad, you don't know really whether it's from the left or the right or behind you or in front of you. Once you get in that situation. So this is just all great stuff, the way everything has turned out. Okay, let's see. Dayton, I did fly for a regional, excuse me, for a couple of years, flying the Embraer 120. But the thing is, I always missed the hiring in those periods where you could get on and stuff like that. And I ended up in the 135 world. I have been doing well, I'm not doing it now, but did that for a long time. Did you prefer the G1000 in the Mustang or the G3000 in the M2? The G3000, I think, is my preference there. I wasn't a big fan of the Mustang, even though I flew one. But I flew the Garmin 1000, and that really was a great aid to me then when I went into the M2 with the Garmin 3000. Now they got the Garmin 5000. I've never used that one, but I'm a big fan of the Garmin products. Big fan. Has a lot of capability. It gives you all sorts of options. All sorts. Let's see who else we got here. I'll try to knock. Oh yeah, I gotta go here, but I'm gonna try to get as many people as I can real fast. Thoughts on the one cockpit pilot, Xavier Schenkel? I have 3 single pilot types. I fly single pilot, but I'm not a fan because of the fact that 4 eyes are always better than 2. And also late at night, it's nice to have somebody to keep you awake. It's always nice to have a second set of eyes, a second set of ears, monitoring everything. And here's another thing you don't think about with this also. If you're flying single pilot, you're doing everything as well as greeting the passengers, loading the bags, getting them on the airplane, doing the brief, getting it started, and all that. Middle of summer, you get people in there. If you don't have a ground power unit hooked up, close the door and give them the brief. I mean, you're going to cook before you even get up front, get the engine started, and get the ACU running. It's always nice to have another guy that's in back getting all that started as you're up front getting everything to go. So that's how I feel about it. I mean, it's not a big deal that I do it, but I just always think 2 is better than 1. And the airlines have operated that way for many years, even though that there are some groups that like to save money and put 1 guy up front. But I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. Let's see. Alex Shade 84 still deviates at flight level 450. Yep. Yes, you always have to consider if you have a decompression or engine failure. We actually talked about that last live stream, when we were talking about that Encore accident. What happened to that guy? You've only got 5 or 6 seconds of useful consciousness to get that mask on and get started down. Oh yeah, flying past the arch. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Okay, let's see what else we got. Do you think synthetic vision is really an innovation in flight safety? Marcos Farley. That's a very good question. I have not seen anything yet in synthetic vision that I'm really excited about. I think it's coming, though. You're definitely going to have that. But in the airplanes that I've flown with synthetic vision, no, there's no way I'd be flying around in the clouds on synthetic vision. So, all right, folks, I've enjoyed it. I got to go. It's been an hour. But keep the blue side up, the brown side down, and you guys fly safe out there. Enjoyed it. Talk to you next time.